The Vice Kings in Saints Row is one of the most notorious gangs in Stillwater, known for running a tight grip on the city's nightlife, music industry, and a significant part of the criminal underworld.
Wrong time, wrong place, dawg.
Originally led by Benjamin King, they operate more like a corporate enterprise than a street gang. However, that wasn't always the case. The Vice Kings trace their roots back to the 1970s, which brings me to who I believe the Vice Kings are based on. Based on their name, it seems likely that they take inspiration from Chicago gangs like the conservative Vice Lords. Originally, groups like the Vice Lords started as community organizations to empower low-income black neighborhoods in Chicago and protect them from other groups causing harm across the city, much like the Vice Kings wanted to do in Saints Row. But like many of the Chicago groups spread through the city, things changed over time, and violence and revenge killings led them down a darker path, turning them into street gangs. But going back to the Vice Kings, they do share a similar story, where good intentions eventually shifted to survival and power. Their leader, Benjamin King, organized the use of Sunnyvale Gardens against Los Carnales. At the time, they were an unstoppable force who owned the entire city and ran rampant in Sunnyvale, killing and demanding protection money. This caused Benjamin King and Julius Little to find themselves in a brutal standoff with Los Carnales. The Kings began recruiting locals to join their side and attack the Carnales. This sparked a bloody feud between the Vice Kings and the city's Spanish gangs. Over just 2 days, the conflict escalated, with drive-by shootings, brawls, and back-and-forth killings that eventually forced Los Carnales out of Sunnyvale. But after taking control of Sunnyvale, the Vice Kings quickly expanded to claim the rest of Stillwater. However, the retaliation from Los Carnales continued plunging the projects into constant violence. Although the Vice Kings ultimately emerged victorious, the city was left in ruins, and the gang had become indistinguishable from the same gang they had started a war with. This caused Julius Little to throw down his black and gold colors, disgusted by what his gang had turned into. This power went straight to Benjamin King's head, along with others in the gang who believed they could rule the city, profit from its pain, and still be seen as heroes. Benjamin King began focusing on building real power and wealth through legal means, knowing that eventually his illegal earnings would get him a lengthy sentence, making all that money and time pointless. But while the Vice Kings were establishing their gang into an empire, the Los Carnales would jump deeper into the underground and decided to expand, getting into all types of illegal activities like cartels. And while these older gangs were counting a lost legacy, some suburban street racers on the west side decided to band together, forming a new gang called the West Side Rollers. These suburban savages really weren't as active as the other larger gangs in the city. That was until the 3rd Street Saints, formed by Julius Little, killed some of their members and messed up their business. But we can get to the story of the West Side Rollers another time. The Vice Kings were thriving. They had crazy firepower and support from local police and city hall officials. But this shift left a bad taste for some members, who felt uneasy about how far the gang had strayed from its original purpose and now ended up gambling and selling hookers to creeps on the street. But the Vice Kings did manage to give back to the community by building and launching a recording studio and record label called Kingdom Come Records, right in the heart of Union Square, signing artists from rival neighborhoods and backgrounds. So far, the label's greatest accomplishment is selling over 1 million records through their run. They have claimed to have sold 1.1 million copies of their music. Since the music was released in the mid-2000s, CDs were still popular, and ringtones were also common. If they sold their CDs for $20 each, that means they likely made over $22 million just from CD sales alone. But this all came to an end when the 3rd Street Saints went on a rescue mission for Aisha's sister. She had been kidnapped by a low-level Vice King, which sent Aisha into a panic. She called her boyfriend, Johnny Gat, a 3rd Street Saints member, for help, which Johnny Gat quickly sent the player to follow the kidnapper's car. The player followed them to a building, where he saw Aisha's sister being taken inside. He fought his way through the Vice Kings, rescuing not only Aisha's sister, but also several other young women who had been abducted. He brought them all back safely to the Saints Row Church. Later, Aisha's sister spilled the beans to Johnny Gat. telling him that Tanya was sleeping with both Big Tony and Warren Williams. She would even reveal the existence of a brothel at the Rakin's Hotel. Tanya Winters is an ambitious, calculating bitch and depends on her feminine charms to keep both of her lovers, Tony Green and Warren Williams, in the dark about her true intentions for the Vice Kings organization. She wants all of the power and to cause conflict so she can rule over the gang and rack in all the benefits. Warren Williams was a rapper under the label and a member of the gang who went by the name Easy Money. He serves as the lieutenant of the Vice Kings and manager of the label. His job is to book gigs and break legs. Tanya manipulates and pushes Warren to take control of the gang's empire. She knows Warren has become obsessed with taking down his rivals and fueling violent gang warfare across the streets. Anthony Green, also known as Big Tony, is Benjamin King's loyal bodyguard and close friend, trusted by King more than anyone else in the Vice Kings gang. Thanks to his size and strength, Tony became a natural protector for King, and he's also Tanya Winters' main lover, which puts him in a complicated position, since Warren, the other high-ranking member, is secretly working against King. But during a Saints raid on an old police station that Tanya is using as a temporary brothel, Big Tony manages to capture Johnny Gat, a key member of the 3rd Street Saints. He takes Gat back to his condo and ties him to a chair, keeping him hidden. But when Julius Little, the Saints leader, finds out where Gat is, he sends the player to rescue him. The player storms Tony's condo, leading to a showdown where Tony is killed in a final standoff.
How about you get me out of this fucking chair? That's much better. Now, I heard Green say that he's got some heavy shit in the back. I'll have some of our boys roll on over and bring the hardware back to the crib.
After Big Tony's death, Williams and Tanya come up with a plan to take control of the Vice Kings from Benjamin King. They make an attempt to overthrow him.
Hadn't wasted our time sticking your nose up them white boys' asses, we could've owned the whole damn game by now.
I told you before, we ain't getting into that shit.
And why the fuck not? That's where the money is. Man, if you got down with that shit back in the day, the Carnales would have been ghosts right now. But you didn't, did you? You were too much of a pussy then, and you're too much of a pussy now. Fuck!
You forgot who you talking to. My name is Benjamin motherfucking King. I'm the man who took my crew from being a bunch of baby gangsters in Sunnyvale to being one of the most influential and feared forces in the goddamn city. You know how I did that? I said, you know how I did that?
Mr. King.
I did it by knowing when it was time to build, when it was time to watch, and when it was time to act. I'm through carrying your punk ass. If I were you, I'd drop them damn flags and get the fuck out of here before I erase your ass.
I ain't going nowhere.
You ain't hearing me, son. I said...
Yo, fuck that. You ain't hearing me.
What is this?
I built, I watched, and now I'm acting.
But King escapes because of his friendship with Julius Little, who sends the Saints player to help him.
But him and me, we got history. I owe King from way back in the day, and he ain't gonna eat it if I can help it. You're gonna go out there and save his ass.
The player and King confront Williams and leave him trapped in the burning wreckage of his Rattler, believing he's done for. But Williams manages to survive.
Hey, baby.
That is until Tanya betrays him and kills him.
Give me a fucking hand! Little nigga, huh? So care who little nigga is. This motherfucker ass is mine. Hey, yo, Tanya! What's going on?
You're a bright boy. I'm sure you can figure it out.
Bitch, you better not miss,
Thanks for the advice.
Tanya would successfully take over the Vice Kings for a brief moment where she really took control of the gang. But it all started to fall apart when the Vice Kings couldn't finish off Benjamin King. Some of the gang members weren't happy about Tanya being in charge, and that came back to bite her.
I've smoked dozens of fools before. I ain't adding to the count unless I have to.
Oh, that's just fucking great.
I said don't worry about it.
I don't want you bitching out when you see your crew.
Ain't my crew, son. That's why I'm here, remember? So how about you put your dick away, pick up your gun, and try to keep your knee away from the bullets.
Because one night, King, Johnny Gat, and Player stormed into the penthouse where Tanya was now running things.
Some guys just never get enough of me.
I've had more than my fill, bitch.
It's over, girl. You're not gonna be able to fuck your way out of this one.
That's cute, sweetie. That's just precious.
During the confrontation, Tanya was shot through a window. As she hung on for dear life, begging King for mercy, King was ruthless and done with her. So instead of helping her up, he stepped on her fingers, making her lose her grip.
Do yourself a favor and die with some dignity.
Tanya plunged 30 stories down, crashing straight through the roof of King's truck parked below.
That sucks for your car.
Now with her out of the way, the Vice Kings went to shit. 5 years later, King has turned his back on gang life and now writes for a living. But you can still see some old faded Vice Kings tags in the projects, in downtown areas where they used to rule. In Shivington, there's a clear sign that things have changed. There is a faded Vice Kings tag on a building that's now covered by a Sons of Samedi skull. Former Vice King leader Julius Little looks at the scene with disgust. He realizes that the 3rd Street Saints haven't really fixed the gang problem. They've just become part of it, just like the Vice Kings once were. He sums it up by saying,
The Saints didn't solve a goddamn thing. Drugs were still being pushed. Innocent people were still getting killed. All we did was turn into Vice Kings that wore purple.
Jesus Christ, you sound like a pussy.
I sound like someone who's not a sociopath.
You wanna be the killer with a conscience? Fine. Drop your flags and write a book like King, but you never should have came after me.
You telling me, if I would have asked you to walk away, you would have said yes.
Fuck no.
but the story of Julius Little is for another day. Before we go, let's see how many Vice Kings are actively living and where they are now. Benjamin King's journey in Saints Row is a brutal one, but somehow he ended up being the only one standing tall. Warren Williams, Tanya Winters, and Anthony Green all met their end, and even Julius Little would eventually die off in Saints Row 2. So altogether, 4 people from Benjamin King's circle ultimately died in this fight for power. But if you want to watch more stories like this, then go check out my next video or join the Discord to win prizes. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel.